There's no feast in the Christian tradition that's filled with as much mystery and tradition and legend and controversy as what we celebrate today. By the way, many of you have been following along in the leaflets, and you'll see we didn't always follow. This service has so many alternative texts that we basically had to pick and choose on the fly because of the snowstorm. We made choices afterwards that would fit the day better. How many of you can see the creche? Pretty much, okay. You'll notice the visitors that have now arrived at the creche. This is kind of a test, but not really, okay. I asked 3 people before the service began. I gave them the Bible text that I was going to read the gospel, and I said I was going to ask them some questions. So would the 3 volunteer candidates stand up? Now, this is all for fun, and it's not in any way going to embarrass you, okay? But I want this to be a teaching moment too. We'll have some fun with it, okay? How many of you could practically recite the story of the Magi from memory? You've heard it so many times, either from church and Sunday school or whatever. Be honest, those of you who are adults. More or less? More or less? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry? You dated one of them? I wasn't prepared for that one. All right, guys, I gave you the text to study beforehand, okay? Here's the question. How many kings does the text say visited the child? What did your eyes tell you?
No kings, but 3 wise men.
No kings, 3 wise men. What did you guys? You gonna back her on this? Would anyone like to challenge what she says? Now they're all scaring, because now that for the first time they're gonna have to listen. You're not far from the kingdom of God, okay, as Jesus would have said. Very interesting. Sit down. I want to thank you because it's funny. First of all, we have heard this story so many times and we probably have seen the scene played out in movies, okay, from the opening scene in Ben-Hur, or if you saw the Nativity story, the movie The Nativity. We have seen a Christmas creche, and every Christmas creche has identical figurines in it. It always has 3 magi, okay? 2 of whom are always Arabian, 1 of whom is always African, 2 of whom are relatively old, 1 of whom is relatively young. Sort of symbolic of the peoples of the earth coming to visit the Christ child. That's the figurines. And you all know, I should hope you all know, who gives us the creche as a teaching tool? How many Italians? Francis, of Assisi. Okay, all you Italians here, raise your hands. All right, at least we got to talk. Thank God. Okay. Yeah, Francis, great church reformer, takes the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke, and he doesn't care that the stories are not identical. His point is he wants to teach people who cannot read. He wants them to know the Christmas story. So he does this not with figurines, but with real people, and it's played out in Assisi every year where they have the living creches. And there's some churches also that have that as well. But what did you hear? What did I read? 2 different things, I guarantee you, okay? You all heard me say 3 kings. You're going to sing the hymn, We 3 Kings of Orient Are. We're going to sing, that's the next hymn, right, brother? Yes. Okay? But that's not what I read. And you picked it up. The text says 3 wise men. Now, you women know that's probably a stretch if there are that many wise men. Okay? The technical term is magi. The magi literally are astrologers, or verbatim, stargazers. Okay? They are men of philosophy, and they are interpreters of dreams and stars. You heard me say 3 kings. I never said 3 magi either. What you heard were 3 gifts: gold, incense, and myrrh. Perfect, okay? And every Christmas scene you've ever seen played out in a Christmas pageant, every movie you've ever witnessed, every book you've ever read, always puts 1 gift in the hand of one of the magi. And that's what's in your head. And of course, the reason why you hear kings is because you know Psalm 72, which is a psalm Brother chose that's more traditional with Epiphany, and it talks about the kings of Tarshish coming to visit. And in your minds, without even thinking of it, you translated that psalm into the Magi coming and heard the word kings when I read the gospel. And we've done that for centuries. Okay? They may not have been kings, but they are tremendously important for who they are. And they're part of an important drama which makes this feast really essential. By the way, they get their names. I asked the kids, they know the names of the wise men because they've been in pageants. They gave me 2 out of 3 right off the bat. Let's see if the adults are any better. Names of the wise men from tradition? Oh, wait, one at a time. Melchior? Balthazar? Casper. Okay, pretty good. Those names don't show up until the Middle Ages. We have no idea where or when they come from. All of a sudden, the names start appearing identified with the gifts, and then all of a sudden, the specific breakdown. 2 old, 1 young, 2 middle, 2 Arab, 1 African. All of a sudden, that comes together, acknowledging the diversity of who we are as people. And they start to inhabit our literature as well. How many of you had to, this is a sign of old age, okay? In high school, required reading the O. Henry story, The Fourth Wise Man. That was required reading when I was a kid. No one? Did you have to read it? Yeah, I did. No? I'm surprised. Okay. The Fourth Wise Man by O. Henry. Okay. If you're into old movies and whatnot, it's an old TV. You can still find it. The film was a TV movie, The Fourth Wise Man, and it was a very young Martin Sheen plays the role. Okay. It's the one who doesn't get to the crib, and it's the one who doesn't get to the manger because he spends his life doing all sorts of things with the gift he would have brought to help the poor. And in the end, I'm not going to tell you, read it for yourselves. And as I said, they have woven their way into literature. If you've seen the movie Ben-Hur, you probably remember if you read the book. The figure of Balthazar appears at the beginning of it, and he's one of the minor characters in the story. And eventually, the one who finds the child is one of the ones who finds him on the cross. If you remember the movie Ben-Hur, that leads in. Why are they important? Because they are the epitome of what it means to search for God. These are people who study their own text. They're not part of God's chosen people. They're not a religious people per se. But they study a fire in the sky, and they are the only ones who get it. That when Isaiah writes about a people who walked in darkness have seen a great light, they saw the light, they know what it means. And they're willing to follow it, no matter. And they come to worship a God they don't even understand. But that's not important, because they're seekers of truth. And they're going to let that truth guide their life. And they are in contrast to the other players in the scene, who are also very important for who they are and what they do, or don't do. The scholars of court that are asked the question, where is the Messiah to be born? They are the people who know everything. They've got the book knowledge, okay? But it doesn't make a bit of difference. It's all academic, literally. They can quote the scriptures without any understanding or making it touch their hearts. And they react with basic indifference. It's a legal question for them. Where will the Messiah be born? He'll be born in Bethlehem. Big deal. It means nothing to them. And then there's Herod. The 20th century saw an incredible collection of monsters. Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, and Laden. Most of them couldn't hold a candle to Herod. Herod was one of the truly evil people ever born who got to a position of leadership. This was a guy who murdered at least one of his wives, at least one of his mother-in-laws, 3 of his children. Okay? And you take a person like the Emperor of Rome, who was no Mother Teresa himself, makes the comment talking about Herod being partially Jewish, that Herod would never eat pork. He made the comment about Herod, his friend. It was safer to be Herod's pig than to be Herod's kid. Because he murdered 3 of his children. He wouldn't kill his pig, because he wouldn't bother to eat it, keep it kosher. When Herod was about to die as an old man, he rounded up hundreds of hostages, and the word was given that when he died, they were to be executed, so that someone would be crying on the day he died. The families of the hostages. That's the type of person he was. So was he capable of ordering the slaughter of innocent children? In a heartbeat, he already done it. Those are the characters played out. The searchers of truth, the monster, and the scholars who don't care. So what does it all mean? Why is the feast so important? Take 2 things from it, especially as you begin a new year. I admire these people who spend their time, who looked at the sacred text, who read them, studied them, and prayed them, because they weren't satisfied with where their life was at. And they wanted to find something more, and something deeper. And at the beginning of the year, I throw this out as a challenge as well as a resolution. Would it not be wonderful that all of us took a little more time in terms of prayer, in terms of studying the scriptures, in terms of making the Word of God alive, and finding out where is God leading us? Which brings us to the second part. The second thing which makes them so important to me. These are people who go on a journey.
We throw this term around, your faith journey. We say that phrase over and over again. But faith is a journey. It's not enough to read or to listen or to know. Faith is traveling with Christ. Faith is following that star, the light, he who is the light of our lives. And sometimes that journey will take you into interesting places. It takes you among people who will support you and love you because they believe the same as you do. It will take you through the paths of those who are indifferent to you and think you're kind of foolish. And it will take you across the paths of people who will hate you because you are a believer. But you can't follow the star if you stay still. And you cannot bathe yourself in the light of Christ if you stay at a distance. It's a journey, which means he seeks us out. He calls us to himself. He doesn't go where he's not welcome, but he welcomes us